Here, and our mission today is that we are going to set up this QNAP network switch that has been here forever. So this came in on loan from QNAP, I think even before the holiday season, and I have been meaning to get this thing going here. So that is what we're going to do in a minute here. I'm going to go live on Amazon. We are live in 3, 2, 1. And here we go. So good afternoon, everybody. It's a Friday afternoon. My office is still a mess, and I was going to do a cleanup day today, and then I said, you know what, I got some more stuff that I want to do. So today we are going to be getting this thing going. And if you don't know what this thing is a network switch from QNAP that they lent to me months ago that I have not gotten to yet. In fact, like I said, I think I got this like before the holiday season. So I am going to finally get this thing set up so I can maybe shoot a review of it next week. And what this is a network switch with this is like your everything device, okay? So it's a network switch. It supports PoE, and PoE, by the way, is power over Ethernet. And in addition to being a PoE network switch, it also does NAS capability stuff too. So you can put in hard drives and have it run as a QNAP network attached storage device. And in addition to all of that, it's got an Intel processor. So you could even run Plex as a media server on this thing if you wanted to. So it's really quite equipped here. And what we're going to do is install some hard drives in it and get it set up and see how it all works. And we got some of my friends popping in here to watch me take this thing apart. Jax, Rich Wilson, Jason Jones, B. Tabalba, Curtis Mann is here, and Air 10 Pix Radio is here. So a lot of our regulars are here to watch me tinker with another device. This is one of these things that sometimes I don't feel like I should be playing with. It feels professional, doesn't it? It looks professional. And it is professional. So QNAP makes a lot of NAS devices, but they also make network devices. And this is a little bit of both. And I've got like a bunch of NASs that came in from all the major players too. So I've got, I think I'll probably be doing another one of these NAS weeks where we go through and look at these things. The problem with NAS devices is that I get so many in, and they don't change much from one year to the next. They may be a little bit quicker than the last version, so they're hard to review over and over again because it's the same thing, just a little faster or a little bit of this or a little bit of that. And it's got to figure out how to get into this thing now. I took this thing apart back in December when we got it in, and I forgot how it comes apart. So let's see if we can figure it out here. I'm guessing it slides. I just don't want to break it or hurt myself. Although hurting myself is usually what happens. So I got everything unscrewed here. Yeah, I think it might just pop up from the back here maybe. I suppose if I read the instructions it might actually give me a better idea, which I might do. See, it could be too that I put this I put it back together incorrectly. Or did the front come off? I can't remember. So before I do anything rash here, I'm going to go grab the instruction book and just see if I can make sense of how it's supposed to come apart. If I still have the instruction book, that is. Here we go. So let us have a look-see before something bad happens here. Kazmunit says, that looks expensive. It is about $700 as is without drives. And I'm just reading through the instruction sheet here as to how to get it open. All right, so I took off those screws, and I guess you lift up on it. That's what you're supposed to do, is lift up. Right? That's the up direction. So let me see if I can get it to pop open here. So I'm guessing I was on the right track here with trying to pop it up from the back. So I got all the screws out of it. It is metal, so you can't really break it. I think this came apart a lot easier the first time I did it. So we'll see if we can get it open. Yeah, this is a full-on NAS with RAID, so you can get it going. Yeah, so this is a gigabit switch, but it has the ports on it, so you could pop in 10 gig adapters on it. And it also has, if I remember correctly, it has 2 PCI Express slots on it also. It does not want to come apart. What am I doing wrong here? See, the instructions are not clear. I took the screws off. Oh, unless maybe I got to take some screws off the bottom too. I don't remember having to do that. Or these are attaching the rubber feet. And then you take those screws off, and then it says you just lift it up. Unless you push it back and then lift up. Let's see. There we go. I got it. Ah, now we're in. And you all might remember we did a video on this, or an unboxing video already of this one. And I took it apart just to show what it looks like inside. But we never actually got it hooked up and operating. So now we are going to do the hookup and operational side of things. And the reason why I've taken it apart, one is to show you everything in here. So this one has 8 gigs of RAM. So we've got a 4 gig module and a 4 gig module. I think I can get my camera in a little tighter too. There we go. And then you have a PCI, actually 2 PCI Express slots over here. So if you wanted to hook up additional cards, you can pop them in there. This is a Gemini Lake processor, so this is not like an i5 or anything like that, but it is a PC and a network switch, and I think it's a managed switch too on top of all that, in a single package here. And it's really pretty slick. So yeah. Now, some people, when I did the unboxing, said, well, this is kind of dangerous because you're putting all your eggs in one basket. In other words, if you have a failure, you lose everything, and that's true. So you have to think about that. Although I think there's a lot of small businesses that might welcome something compact like this. And QNAP has a similar security camera system. So, delicious coffee. So you could run your security and VR through this, for example, if you wanted to do that, something like that. All right, so now we're going to take off this drive cage here, and we're going to load the hard drives in. And if I read the instructions correctly, they ask you to pull it out, like so, which is what we're going to do. And it looks like the fan stays in, so we're not going to unscrew the fan, but we're going to unscrew this part here. And I'll give you my overhead view. By the way, I am very happy with the way my streaming vMix computer is working. So it's been really a great experience with vMix. Now the problem here is that my screwdriver doesn't fit in there, so we're going to have to get creative in a second here. So I'll unscrew this one here, and then I've got to put on an extension piece. And I think I have something in here that will do that. Let's see if this thing might help us get in there. I'm not sure if this is a good idea or not, but we'll see if this is going to work. If not, we're just going to have to squeeze something in there. And the problem is that I'm not sure if this is if this is supposed to be used for this purpose, but I can't, that doesn't fit in there. Shoot. Okay, that's not going to work. I wonder if I can extend the screwdriver piece here. So a little while ago, if you're watching on Amazon, I will put this up on screen right now. I bought this from during a Prime Day sale. It's one of these PC screwdriver kits. It's got everything you need in there. It's really, really good stuff. Travis Rhodes says, do I have an ETA on the Comcast fiber install? Not yet. I hope to have an ETA soon on that because I'm still struggling. I did have to send in a trouble ticket the other day because of the issues I'm having with my current connection, because you all know that we keep losing signal here. So, I've been using the Amazon Media Live service to get stuff in for the time being, but it's not ideal to have to pay extra just to keep my stream from dumping the audience, right? So we'll have to see where that goes. Now, this is interesting too because your SATA connectors here are on a little daughter board that plugs into another slot on the motherboard here. So they pop in right over there. And then the network switch is like its own entity. So you can see up here, it's a separate daughter board. And I don't even think it's connected. There's got to be some connection to the PC. But there may not be one. So I'm not sure how the PC side of this connects to the network. Maybe there is some kind of connection inside to get that going. All right, so now we're going to load some hard drives in. And a little while ago, Seagate had sent, I haven't looked at these yet, Seagate sent over these Iron Wolf drives. These are SSDs. And I figured, you know what, let's just put these in just to get the best performance we can hope to get. So that's what we're going to do. And we're just going to slide these guys in here. And I'll screw them in a second too. They've got some screws in the box over there, which I'll get. And we'll just pop this one in. Gotta get it lined up though. Like that, and we'll screw these in. Just do like 1 or 2 screws just to get it in there. So let me go get those screws real quick. And then we will fire it up, as they say. Now, what's cool about the QNAP stuff is that, actually Synology can do this too. You can run Windows inside of your switch. So you can load it up as a virtual machine, and you can have all that going. All right. So we got 87 folks tuned in to watch me set this thing up. The nice thing with this is that unlike these PCs that we build, this one should just turn on without any real drama. Although, stranger things have happened on this channel. Okay, so let's get this screwed in here. I'll cut over to this other view. So we got one screw in there. And then we'll do this one over here just to keep it from moving around too much. These drives are going to come right back out again, so I'm not going to do too many screws here and bore you with screw driving all day long. All right, so that is good to go. Okay, so now we're going to drop this back in and have it pair up with that daughter board there. And let me see if I can get you another shot here that will show you how it goes in. You just kind of pop it in there, and that's it. And I'm just going to do 2 of these screws here just to keep it tied down. And what I really need to get is a couple of 10 gig Ethernet cards, because that would be really fun. Dimitri wants to know, could this transcode for Plex? It sure can. This is a Gemini Lake processor, so I think this would actually be a pretty decent Plex server. Now what's funny though is that if I connected a 10 gig Ethernet card to this, I'd have to run the cable around to the front, right? Because it's not connected. So it's kind of all popped in there. And I'm guessing that there must be some direct interface. And I'm curious to see what the speed is on the backbone between the computer inside and the network switch, right? So it's a 16-port switch. So there must be a 17th port that ties it into the network side of this thing. Because there's not like a separate. So there is a host port here, but I think this is a serial connection. Let's take a look in the instructions here and see how that all. Yeah, because it just needs a single connection to the network. And it doesn't matter where you plug it into. Well, let's see what happens when we boot it up. But typically the QNAPs have it's an RJ45, but it's actually a serial port. So let's get this thing going. And you'll probably also notice there's an HDMI port here because they do have a display option. And maybe we'll plug a monitor on top of this thing. I mean, really, it's a little PC that runs a custom Linux thing or whatever. So that's pretty much how it works. All right, I'm on the thing right now. Do you want to come down for a second?
I'm just cutting through.
Okay. So now we're going to plug it in. And hopefully it will boot up. Okay, so we're going to plug that in there, and we're going to pop this in here, and we're going to hit the power switch. There it goes, the fans came on. And there's a display here on the front too. Definitely got some noisy fans, so you probably want to lock this up into your closet. My wife is doing the walk like an Egyptian dance as she walks by the camera here. Okay. So this is coming up. So Greg M says, I wonder what the noise level is. Well, it is loud, that's for sure. Now it's funny, I don't see the display lighting up here just yet, but maybe it's going through its boot up phase. And what I need to do also is get my network connected. So I'm just going to plug it into my network. And I got to get this cable free. So pick a port, any port. I'm just going to pop it into port 6. And that will connect up to the rest of my network so we get an IP address here and everything else. All right. So it is booting up. I'm surprised we haven't seen the display light up yet, though. So we'll figure this out. And now we're going to go to a website, and I'll show you what I'm looking at here. So we're going to go to install.qnap.com, and that will bring us to this cloud page. And I'm guessing this hasn't appeared on the network yet, so we'll give it a second, because I am on my, I'm on my network here, so I will keep rescanning here until it is booted. It is on the network though, so the network switch component is working. But again, I'm surprised I didn't see that display light up here, so I'm not sure what's going on. Let's take a look and see if I'm missing anything. And it could just take time for it to boot up. Yeah, so you see, it says you plug it in. Now it does say to attach the computer directly. So it's possible that it doesn't have an IP address, or it's not, it's like set to one automatically. So you know what I'll do is I will connect to, that could be what it wants us to do. So you know what we'll do real quick here is let me get out another computer that I can just plug into it real quick. And let's see if that changes the dynamic here. And I also need another patch cable. So rescan one more time here. Okay, so I'm going to go grab another patch cable, and we'll just plug my laptop in here directly and see what it finds. So let me grab a patch cable out of the back. Actually, I got a patch cable right here. That's a long one though. Where's this one going? You know what? I'm not going to mess with that. Let me go grab one out of the closet here. Okay. Yeah, so this has got PCI Express on it too. So I would not consider this thing a video production device by any stretch, because this doesn't have the CPU horsepower for that. But it's it's going to be good for Plex and that sort of thing. That I think it will do well on. So I'm just going to log into this computer real quick here, and we'll get going. Hopefully it'll find it. I'm just surprised that I haven't seen the this thing light up yet. So that was something I was curious about here. So let me pop in here, and we'll go to the website that it wants us to go to. Let's just see if it finds it. So it's install.qnap.com. And I'm also connected to Wi-Fi, so we'll see what What do we get here? All right, that's not working either. So let me hit this real quick. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the website over the Wi-Fi, and then I'll connect the Ethernet and see if it finds it then. Because it's definitely not finding it on the network, which it won't because it's not currently on the network. So let's get disconnected, and we'll switch over. And it's taken longer to search now. You can't see what I see right now just because I don't have this thing connected to my video system just yet. But let's see. I don't think it's finding it. So you know what we're going to do? Yeah, I didn't find it. So we're going to power cycle this thing. And I'm going to boot it up with the network cable plugged in and see if that gives us a different outcome here. So let's try that real quick. Oh, interesting. So, I know what I'm doing wrong. So here's the thing. Because these are two different devices here, you've got to hit the host power button here first. So, because right now the switch is on, but the host is not. So that's why we didn't have this working. So let's hit the host button. Ah, there we go. So it's got two power switches. And that continues my theory that these are two separate devices. And you missed that whole thing. I'm sorry, I didn't have the camera on me. Hey, there are the buttons right here. All right, and it's beeping, and it's booting. And intro, yeah, we do have a lot of Synology content also, but I try to cover the whole industry here. This thing, oh, what happened? Oh shoot, I hit the power cord knocked out. Oops. But I like to cover the whole gamut of the industry because there's a lot to talk about with this stuff. And this is interesting to me just because, you know, it's not always practical to have something that does so much in one box, but I think there's some interest there for something like this. Because a lot of people don't like clutter. If you want, you know, like so in a single rack mount, you can have your network switch, and it supports PoE, so you can run your security system off of this thing. You can record because you have the hard drive and the NAS built in, and as you'll see in a little bit, we'll be able to boot Windows up on this too. So it's very, very complete. Did I ever get the keyboard on my 12-inch MacBook repaired? I haven't, no. I will get it fixed at some point, but we'll see what happens. I did get my MacBook Pro keyboard fixed, and then my wife's computer is back into the repair shop. But you know what I did? I sent the MacBook Pro, my wife's MacBook Pro, I sent it to Louis Rossman's place to repair, so we'll see how he does with it. But so far, so good. I mean, they're pretty upfront. They don't charge you unless you're ready to pay for the repair. And it got there yesterday, so I'll let you know how it works out. You're not too late there, Xris. This is a $699 device that's without the drives. But with the drives, it'll cost a little bit more, whatever the drives cost you. As we saw a minute ago when we took it apart, I should have ran the recorder so I could have shown you. It takes smaller 2.5-inch drives, not the larger desktop size 3.5-inch drives. So you'll probably want a smaller hard drive to go into this thing. And it's noisy. The fans, this is a loud NAS, so this is not going to be something you put in the home theater room. This is something you put down in the basement or in the utility closet. And it looks like it is loading driver, it says. And let me check now and see if it's finding, yeah, so it's not yet finding the device on the network here. But I think it's because it's still loading its drivers or whatever. So, so we'll let this thing finish its initial boot. But the switch is working already. So the switch is on a separate, as we talked about a second ago, you got to make sure you hit the right button. And that beep, I think, means we're getting closer to it working, or it's not working at all. We'll see. And actually, I think I'm probably good on this laptop now. So we can move that away. This has support for 2 drives. Although I wonder if you put in, actually, you know something? Let's take a look inside again, because I don't need to have the case attached here. If I can do this without killing the power on it again. I think it's rebooting, by the way, because the display went dark again on it. Let me get this open again here, because I'm curious if it has an M2 slot on it. And typically these don't work with M2 NVMe drives, but I think if you've got, we have those two PCI Express slots on here, so I guess it would be possible if it supports that sort of thing. What am I doing wrong here? Here we go. So inside, let me pull up my overhead view here for you. I'm just looking to see if there's an NVMe slot visible, but I don't, there's my head. I don't think there is one here. Yeah, I'm not seeing it. But the big noise here is the power supply fan. That's making the most noise. Let me get another look at it over here. Yes, I don't see any NVMe slots visible here. But again, I think you could probably put in the back here, you've got those two PCI Express slots. So that might give you some options. All right, so it says the host is on, although it's blinking again. So I think it might, maybe it's rebooting. Let's see. Let me do a rescan here. Oh, it did find it. Okay, so I am going to start the install process here and initialize it on my laptop. And so now it's taken us through the setup process here. And I'm never comfortable, by the way, like doing these accounts with these companies. And the reason is that, and I guess I don't have a choice here, because I don't like accessing my NAS through their services. I prefer just to set up a VPN and do it myself. That's my default. Because I can control the VPN, you know what I mean? I don't have to rely on somebody else to keep their things safe there. So we'll see how this works here. So I'm just going to, I guess I have to set up a QNAP ID here, don't I? Okay, you can choose to create later, but you're not able to, okay, that's fine. So how do we skip this? So this is, it tells me that I don't have to create it. Oh, because I guess I'm just going to click create later. They really want you to do that, don't they? So, all right, so we're going to go to the smart installation guide here. And then we can set up the name and all that good stuff. So we're going to call this QNAP switch. And I'll set up my password here. All right, so I'm going to click next. And then I've got to set a time zone. So we'll give it my Eastern time. And the computer, the date time is the same as the computer device time, whatever that means. Oh, we can have it synchronized with an in, yeah, let's do that. And we'll go in. I thought, by the way, back in the early 90s when I first got on the internet, I thought it was so cool that I could ping the atomic clock and get the exact time. I just thought that was cool. And now it's just like, yeah, sure, here you go. Okay, so now we're going to do the DHCP for this. Yeah, I'll set a, so this is giving me the local IP address. I'm just going to do that. And I can always have my router lock it in. Okay, cross-platform file transfer service. Please enable the OS features to assist you. So this is basically the file sharing protocols that you want to use. And for me, because I use Windows and I use Mac and everything else, we're just going to have it do all of it. So we're going to do next on that one. And then it's going to give us a summary of what we just did, and we'll apply that. And it will say, initializing the system clears all drive data. Do you wish to proceed? I'm happy to do that because these drives are blank. At least I think they are. And then I think we'll be asked after this part to set up our NAS side of things. I don't think it's formatting the drives just yet. But it might be creating some partitions on them to store the OS and stuff, so let's see what happens with that. And I'll take some more questions while we're letting that do its thing there. Rich Wilson says, I don't like any device that requires an internet connection to set up. Yeah, I'm with you on that. Looks like we could get around that. And you know what, part of it is these things. So here's the one thing about QNAP and about Synology, and you know, all the major NAS players, they do a pretty good job of keeping their devices up to date. And one of the things that I like about them is that, so for example, my Synology NAS in the closet, it's my server. So in addition to doing file serving, I'm doing, wouldn't it be horrible if I spilled this coffee? I should be careful here. So my file server is of course on the NAS, but I also use I have a database server that I run on there to keep track of some analytics that I keep track of for affiliate links and stuff. So like all of that is running on it. And I don't have to think about updating it because they are constantly sending updates down. That thing gets updated like 2 or 3 times a month. And QNAP is pretty good about it too. So, you know, there's some advantages and some disadvantages, and it's all about trust, right? You got to trust the company. But what I don't do is I don't allow them to control the remote access. So I have a VPN set up that I connect to, and then I can give Jake, who helps me here on the channel, he can connect that way. But beyond that, I don't want to just have another company deciding who can come into my house or not. That's kind of like my thing here. So that's that. So let's see where we're at on this thing. Okay, so now it's applying the settings. This will take a little bit. Yeah, we'll put Plex on here too and just see how Plex works with it. And I'm really curious as to like what the interface is between the switch and the host side of it. There's got to be some connection between the host and the switch here. And you know something? I think I see it. Nope, that's not it. That's just the light. It must be under the daughter board or some interconnect. All right, we'll wait a few more minutes here for this to finish up. And as Laserdisc points out, security through obscurity isn't always bad. I agree. Stay off the grid. So Aaron Johnson writes, yeah, in fact, it was funny because I had shot the video. I do one sponsored video for Plex a month. And Aaron Johnson is bringing up the fact that they have a new feature called Watch Together. And I had just finished the one that went up yesterday when they dropped the blog post on that. So sometimes I get a couple days advance notice of something. This time I didn't. So I think what I'll do is probably like next week do something on Watch Together. The one thing that, so what it can do is you can call up your friends and you can all watch a movie, either the paid ones or the free ones from Plex or your own content. And it will synchronize all of the clients up together so you can all watch at the same time. And then if somebody pauses it somewhere, it'll pause everybody's. So you don't have to, you know, time it, which I think is pretty cool. I did ask them though, there's no built-in voice chat. So you have to talk to each other on some other platform like Zoom or Google Meet or whatever. But one thing that you could do, which I really think is awesome, is the VR mode, which we did a video on a while ago. So you can watch Plex in VR. I think it supports, I think there's one on Oculus, on the Oculus Quest. I can't remember which platforms. I don't think there's a PC one. I think it's Oculus Quest and Go. Because I know they did Google Daydream also with it. And you could watch a Plex movie and then have people watching with you in VR, and they would show up on the couch next to you, which is pretty cool. All right, so we're waiting for this thing to come back up. It's still applying the settings here. I'll show you what I'm seeing here. And so, yeah, and I'm guessing there's probably going to be an update that we'll have to install on it also before it comes back up. And there's like a lot of stuff that I've got to keep in my mind here for the review because there's a lot of features. Like this is one of these things that's impossible to review because you could do like a 4-hour thing of all the features in it. So, you know, I think I'll see what's changed with QNAP, but my thought process for the review is looking more along the lines of performance, kind of an overview of the interface. This one has power over Ethernet on the first 4 ports, so we're going to want to test that, right? We want to make sure that works. We're going to want to see how this HDMI output works on it. We'll probably test the throughput of the switch from one port to the other. These SFP slots here, I think, let's take a look on the Amazon page for this real quick. I'm pretty sure those are supporting 10 gigabit, but we'll double check. Let me just go pop into my history here and pull it up real quick. And if you go in the description on my video, you can actually watch what I'm doing right now on Amazon, and you can be brought right to this. So here's what it's got. It's got, oh, are they all PoE? I don't think so. 16. Well, you know something? Oh, okay, so 4 of them, so all of these are PoE. 4 of them are 60 watts, and the other ones are 30 watt ports, so it's all PoE. It's a Celeron J4115, which is a quad-core Gemini Lake processor. 1.8 gigahertz, not 18. 8 gigs of RAM. It's got 2 PCI Express X2 slots. You have power management, consumption configuration mode, bandwidth control, yada yada, layer 2, port trunking, LACP. So and we don't go too far into the network weeds here, but we'll check and see if it's a managed switch or not. And here's some of the things you can do with it. So it's got a host containerized, so yeah, you can do Docker or you can do VMs. You have layer 2 network management. So it is a managed switch across the board. Well, that's pretty cool. And you can make it a one-stop IP surveillance system. And if you go over here, here's my unboxing video. Oops. Let's go back here. All right. By the way, I recently ordered some plastic tubs, it looks like. My wife did. Okay. Try a different device name. It's currently not registered. I don't want to, see, I hate this stuff. I don't want to name this thing. The device you search for is not currently registered in the QNAP cloud. On QNAP, how do we call it that? Try a different device name. I don't want to call it anything. I don't get it. Device you search for, I don't know if this is backup or what. All right, so I'm going to try to find what's the IP address of this thing. So that's the one thing that I don't like. And so now it's not finding it at all. So I may have to go find the IP address of this thing directly. Oh, I see. So for some reason, it brought me to my QNAP cloud, but I don't want to be here. So let's go find the IP address. Here we go. And we're just going to go in this way. See, this is the thing. Like, they try to force you into their stuff, and I'm just not comfortable with it. You know, it's not something that I want to allow them to do. I'm happy getting the updates, but I don't want to register this thing and have it get traffic redirected from some server in Taiwan or wherever. I just don't want that. I want it under my control, right? So the good news is, though, that we can get into this now, but it's a roundabout way to get in there. And actually, I'm going to make a note on my review notes here about the fact that they try to force you into that. Yeah, so Laserdisc says that looks more attractive with it being all PoE. Yeah, you could spend a lot of money on a PoE switch. I'm not sure what like a good managed PoE switch is probably a couple $100, right? So yeah, from a value proposition standpoint, it isn't bad. And it looks like you don't have to run the host, the computer part, if you don't want to. QNAP QGD-1600P. So I'm just going to make a note here that I need to talk about QNAP cloud forcing. And there's a way around it. It's not like you can't make it work, but it's, you know. All right, so I'm going to type in my password here, and we'll go from there. Okay, so now we're popping in, and we'll let this load up here. I just want to make sure it doesn't have my public IP address displayed here. All right, yada, yada, yada. We have a data privacy thing we got to do, and then it should let us into the desktop interface. And QNAP, a lot like Synology and the others, they have a really slick interface. So this is what you get, a little show and tell here when you first pop in. And they throw all these windows at you. Hang on a second. Oh, you know what? We've got, oh my gosh, it's like, boom, everything's popping up. So there is a firmware update. So we probably want to do this first. So let's go ahead and just update right now. And it gives us an idea as to what's been changed. And like I said, this came in like in November, December of last year, so I am like way behind on getting this thing reviewed, so that's part of why I'm doing it now. All right, so we're going to let it download the firmware, and then we will come back when it's done doing that. And I wonder, oh, there we go. So we've got like our IP addresses here. So adapter to IP. And this is, oh, so that's the address that we're currently connected to, I think. This looks cloudy, by the way. I still have the plastic film on the front here. That's why it looks a little cloudy. And now it's upgrading the system or whatever. And then we have the firmware version, think of the switch. Oh, this is the name, right? So this, I called it QNAP switch, but that's the name of the host. That's why it says QNAP switch. So this is the version of the firmware. And this goes back to, it looks like August, so we'll get it updated here. And you can get a look at your, there's 3 adapters in here. I don't know what it means by that. So adapter 1 IP is not connected. There's adapter 2 IP and adapter 3 IP. So there's 2 of them. So 134 is what I'm connected to on the host. So I wonder if, okay, so 135 is the switch management IP address, so it is on a separate thing. Isn't that funny? Lots of IPs to manage here. Yeah, so it looks like it's like 2 products in one case kind of thing, sharing the power supply. And actually, they quite literally share the power supply. So check out my, so you see the power supply here? You've got one lead going to the motherboard here. And then the other one, that's not me. I have nothing to do with this. The other one here goes to the switch component. And now it is asking me if I want to restart the NAS. Yes. So we'll do that real quick. And we'll see where we end up. Not bad, folks. We're like only 42 minutes in here. I think this, I think it could be an OLED display, right? All right, so we are waiting for this thing to reboot. And it tells us it's rebooting. So we're going to let that reboot there. Laserdisc says a Ubiquiti 8-port PoE can easily be $500. And they're usually pretty low-priced devices. So yeah, so I guess, for a couple $100 more, you get 16 PoE ports, and you get the computer. And that could be useful. So it's not going to rival like a big, 10-bay or 5-bay NAS or whatever, but you got 2 drives in there for security stuff, it would work. I would actually line this up with the larger Ubiquiti Pro Dream Machine, because they have like an all-in-one Dream Machine now that is a router, it's a controller for your UniFi system. I don't think it has the PoE though, but it does have a hard drive slot for so it can be the server for their security camera system. But this might be, actually this will be a lot more robust because you get a full, full-on Intel PC in there. Ed Horton says he used a TP-Link managed switch for video for about $450. All right, so let's take a look. And by the way, if you're watching on YouTube, you can click on the link and watch me on Amazon if you want to see links to some of the products that we'll be playing with that are attached to this device right now. All right, so it's beeping. And now it's starting back up again. And we're still saying, please wait. But so let me talk to you about vMix. I'm very happy with how vMix is working for me on my system here. It's been, I mean, it's been great. It's been really great, and it's performing well. The system that we built on the channel a few weeks ago is super powerful. I have yet to get to the 20% utilization point with it. So so like this morning I was shooting something. I had 2 NDI sources going in. I was using all 3 of my cameras, and then I had another thing going on. What I did do on my vMix system is I bought as part of the package of things that I bought a 4-input HDMI capture board for the PC here. And that supports 60 frames per second 4K, which I have nothing that can do that except my gaming PC maybe. So that takes some of the load off because it's bringing in the video through that. But right now I've got 3 cameras going, we're streaming, and my total utilization of system resources is 5%. And an NDI source going in, full bandwidth. I mean, it's like nothing. It's crazy. I'm just looking at it right now. GPU memory 8%, CPU 4%, and we're streaming. So it makes use of the NVIDIA encoders. So that's what you're getting from me right now is the encoded NVIDIA stuff. All right, so now I think I'm gonna pop back over to the switch here and see what our next step is. Oh, it's still starting everything up here. It does take a while for it to boot. I'm really curious how they connect the computer to the network. And while that's going, let me check and see also what we can put into those SFP ports there. So I'm curious about that, if you could put 10 gig in that one. So it's got an SFP plus combo port. Does that support 10 gig? Let's see. I am not sure. Maybe somebody in the chat room knows. SFP plus, can you do 10 gig on that? All right. Yeah, it's still booting up here, so we'll figure out what's going to happen when it gets going. So Ed Horn says, I wasn't sure about using the virtual cables in vMix, but it turned out all right. Yeah, virtual devices are interesting. The NDI stuff is just fascinating to me because it's so seamless. I mean, I've got, so the computer screen that you're seeing, this is coming in over NDI right now. I have it plugged into my Spark Plus, which I'm going to review soon. And it's working fine. It's really, really good. All right, looks like we're back up. So let me log back in. And we'll set up the hard drives. Oof. It beeps a lot, though, that's for sure. All right, so it looks like I got in right as it was booting up here. All right, so now we got more of these pop-up windows coming through. So we got a what's new, solid architecture, high-speed backup, and innovative hybrid storage. In case you were wondering what it's got for Linux, it's the 4.14 LTS. So there you go. It can deduplicate data for high-speed backup. Lots of stuff here. Enhanced system security. This looks like you get some logging and stuff. To ensure NAS system security, the default password for the admin account is now the first MAC address. Oh, interesting. Okay. QTS supports a wider range of USB and SATA solutions. More of the deduplicating backup thing. All right, hybrid mounts. Enable local caching on the NAS for a low latency access to connected cloud services. QMAGI, integrated AI algorithm for auto photo organization. And it supports fiber channel SAN if you got that. And you can make your SAN environment budget friendly. We're super budget friendly here. You can set up a fiber channel connection with the iSCSI and fiber channel app. New multimedia console integrates your favorite QTS multimedia apps. Look at all those things you got there. Digital signature, yada, yada, yada. Okay, let's just get this thing set up. It's going to go on and on and on. All right, Help Center. I don't need any help. I need lots of help, but we'll get it figured out. Okay, so now you can purchase the following licenses to enable the extended features of your NAS. So this is one thing both Synology and QNAP require you to buy now is a license for exFAT. So if you were to attach an exFAT SSD or USB drive or whatever, they don't typically connect unless you buy the license to support that file system. And I'm guessing that's because I think exFAT is a Microsoft thing. And if you want, you can put McAfee on here. And the camera channel is their security camera system thing. All right, so right now we don't yet have a RAID set up, so we need to set that up. So what's this thing do? There is a little tool here. This is called the SSD profiling tool. This helps you test different SSD storage configurations and optimize your storage performance. Install one or more SSDs and then run a test to increase the performance of your NAS. Let's create a test. Ooh. This will be it does an SSD over provisioning test. And these drives actually, these are those Iron Wolf Seagate drives. So these may be highly over provisioned because they're designed for NAS capability. Select a single SSD to determine the best over provisioning amount. Oh, I wonder if it can force over provisioning. Let's see. Select multiple SSDs to determine the optimal amount of over provisioning. Okay, so it takes 24 hours to run that test on both drives, so we'll just run the single one here. Well, it's going to take 3 hours. You know what? We're not going to do that. Let's just, we don't have time for that. That's cool, though. You can test to see, yeah, I'll give you this. So, oh, I see. So what it does, it reserves SSD space for the purpose of reducing write amplification, enabling over provisioning, helps maintain. But I think that would make more sense for one of these non-NAS drives because these Seagate Iron Wolves are designed to be in a NAS, so I'm guessing they have some hardware to do that, so you don't need to rely on the NAS for that. Okay, so let's go over to storage because I think this is where we set up our. Okay, so all right, we'll skip this. We'll figure it out. No. Okay. So we are going to, we have 2 drives, and I think we need to create something here. So we're going to create a volume. Although, oh, we have to set up the storage pool first. So let's do the storage pool. Okay, so we're going to get started here. So we're going to create a storage pool. And we probably don't need to do this just because we only have 2 drives in here. But this is kind of neat though because it looks at, you can have different types of drives. So you can put in a couple of SSDs and then have some larger, slower SATA drives, and it will organize the data based on usage to give you more performance on the faster drives. That's kind of neat. All right, so we're going to create a RAID with these 2. Now our choices are not many because we only have 2 drives. So let me talk to you, if you're not familiar with this stuff, as to what our choices are. So JBOD is just a bunch of disks. So it can be selected when 2 or more disks are available. It allows all of the disk capacity to be used, but does not provide any disk failure protection. RAID 0 is the fastest. So JBOD, I think, just gives you 2 different drives that you could write data to. It's just like plugging in, an external drive in or whatever. RAID 0 will combine the storage of both and the performance of both. So what it does is when you write a file, it writes to both at the same time. The problem is if you lose a drive, you lose everything because the drives aren't mirroring each other. They're basically being used for their aggregate performance and capacity. So if we were running on a 10 gig switch, I would actually set that up just to see how much bandwidth we could push into and out of the NAS. But here, because we're just on a gig connection, it's not worth doing that. So what we're going to do is RAID 1. And what's going to happen here is that I've got essentially these are 240 gig SSDs inside. So when I set up RAID 1, even though I have essentially 450 gigabytes of potential storage capacity when you combine the two drives together, we're not going to be doing the scary RAID thing that we were talking about a second ago. Rather, we're going to mirror one drive to the other. So if one of these drives fails, we don't lose the data. But because they're mirrored, you only get the capacity of one, even though you're using both drives. So you can see here on the RAID 1, our estimated capacity, some overhead, is 214 gigabytes, even though we have two drives that are 223 gigs each. Now, if I go to RAID 0, you can see it goes to 428 because it's making use of the aggregate space of both. But again, if we lose one, we lose everything. If we had JBOD set up, you would have just a bunch of disks. So you could access each disk individually. But we're going to do RAID 1. We have no hot spare just because there's nothing plugged in. Although I suspect with this configuration that you could get and one of those NVMe SSD adapters. I should get one just to try it. And if you put that in there, I bet you we would have more drives available to us. That might be worth asking QNAP about. Laura Kimmons has joined us on the Amazon chat. Hello. So again, we're going to do RAID 1, mirrored configuration, and we're going to click Next. And then it's got this over-provisioning tool. Reserve space on the SSDs to improve write performance and disk lifespan. I'm actually going to turn this off just because I think if you've got these Iron Wolf drives in there, you're already over-provisioned. And I think that this is redundant for those drives. For other SSDs, you might want to enable that. And we'll have an alert threshold set, so if we hit 80% of the capacity, we'll get a notification. And what's this reserve space for? Oh my goodness. So this is just the overhead that they put in place here. So they're reserving 68 gigabytes for storage metadata and keep some free space in reserve to ensure system stability. This is something QNAP is doing on their own. So we're only going to have about 145 gigs to play with out of the 240 each that we're putting in, just to give you an idea of that. So you're probably going to want to look at getting some RAID certified SATA spinning drive or something that can give you more capacity, or you're going to be paying a lot for high capacity NAS certified SSDs. All right, so let's create here and get going. All right, that's going to take a few minutes to get that set up, and then we still have to create the volume after that. So let's give it a second there. All right. So trap exit says that exFAT is getting into the Linux kernel at some point, so that probably will reduce the cost here. And he says that there's been some drama. Of course, there's drama with everything, isn't there? Related to, here, I'll pull up the chat on screen here. Related to getting it in there, however. There's always drama with some of these projects. And Cosmin says the NVMe PCI Express adapters are BIOS OS dependent. I'll call QNAP and ask them what they would recommend on that. All right, well, let this thing do its thing here. And then we're going to have to come back into so this is going to take a few minutes to set up. And then we have to, I think, set up the volume that we can share. So let's see what happens after the storage pool is created. All right, so it looks like it's done. And it says here, storage pool 1 has been created. So we're going to create now a new volume. So you have a storage pool first, and then you create the volume on top of that. So we're going to create a volume here, and we're going to assign it to storage pool 1. And let's see what we've got here. A static volume, a thick volume, or a thin volume. So what is this all about? Static volume is a single fixed thing. Okay, so thick volume supports snapshotting. It's kind of like the BTRFS thing, I'm guessing. Multiple pre-allocated, multiple on demand. All right, we're just going to do that middle one. All right, and we'll do storage pool 1. And we're going to call this QNAP switch. Okay, so I set that to the maximum that we can allocate. So we're going to use the entire storage pool for this volume. And I'm just going to leave everything on the default here. They give you a lot of dials to turn here, so which might be confusing for a lot of consumers. But this is kind of more of a, prosumer enterprise kind of device. And we're going to click Finish. All right, so volume QNAP switch is being created. When the volume is ready, you can start to store data on it through FileStation. And of course, we can also connect to it over the network. And let that process for a minute. And let's see if anything changes on the display here. So get my IP addresses, my switch firmware, switch management IP, the model name. That's it. And I'm guessing if we had an error or something, it would pop up there. And while that's going, let's see what else we have to play with here. It's still creating the volume. Let's see. Let's go take a look at the App Center. And I'll pull that up for you all. Welcome to the App Center. This is like their app store where you can get things like Plex and whatever to install on here. So we can browse through some of the apps that you can install. A lot of these are open source projects, all sorts of stuff like CRMs and backup utilities. They have their own backup utility plus some of these other ones that are out there. You can install WordPress and Joomla, MediaWiki. Probably best, by the way, so people ask all the time, like, can I run my web server, my website through here? And I would say yes, but I would not recommend it because it's a pretty low-powered device. You don't want to saturate your internet connection by giving out your IP to everybody. But you could run an intranet for your company through this for sure. Because I was in a job where I had to collect a lot of news articles and stuff, and rather than try to do it through a database program or something, I actually set up a local intranet, and I was running. This was before WordPress was really a thing, so I was using Drupal. I was using Drupal, and we were basically running a blog, but it allowed us to categorize all these articles. It was fully searchable. So we could have just uploaded it to a web server and had it available, but it was running internally. And it was a really great way to organize information. So that's something that I would often recommend you use it for. Because if you are trying to keep track of information, especially articles and stuff, just paste the text in, set your tags. I mean, you can really organize data very efficiently with a blog engine, even if you don't allow anyone from outside to see it. It's just a super efficient tool. And if you organize your data properly, it's really, really slick. Here's the Plex Media Server. Now, what I'm curious about, this is an old version. So we may want to go and get this from Plex directly, because this one's a lot older than the current one. This one's October of 2019. So we're going to get a more up-to-date one. And I'll show you how to do that, because you can, within here, you can install an app manually, and you can just download it direct, which is what we're going to do. Here's their video station. They've got, all these. What's nice about these, the mainline NAS companies like Synology and QNAP is they do a pretty good job of replicating the experience you would have with a cloud service. You can get most of the cloud services you're accustomed to that you'd be paying for on your own server. So there's a lot of stuff here that you can poke around with here. They have surveillance, video surveillance tools there, home automation stuff, security, you name it. Hybrid disk station. What's that all about? Let's see. Looks like there's some liability with hybrid disk station. And I don't know what, oh, this is the, yeah, so this is the stuff that shows up on the HDMI. So we'll install Chrome on there. I think they're nervous about you doing stuff that might impact the security. I'm surprised that they're not running these in containers. Maybe they are. And what's that beep? Error message, pool threshold. Okay, that's fine. So it just gave me a error message. And I think that was the warning that we hit. So we allocated the entire pool. So as expected, we got our warning message that we have hit the end of our storage pool. So if I was managing a larger installation, that would be a time to add more storage for my users, right? So that's what that is there. All right, so we'll go and install Plex separately. Now what I want to do, I think we're up and running here. So let me go and connect up to my Max Finder, because we're going to install Windows on this thing. We're going to get the virtual machine going. And to do that, I want to copy a version of Windows over to it, an ISO, so that we can install Windows properly on here. So right now we're on my QNAP switch. I found it on the network, and I just need to connect to it. And actually, before I do that, I think what we have to do is actually set up our user or our file share. Let me pull up the file station here real quick, and let's see what we have available to us. So I think by default it creates a couple of shares on here. I haven't looked at this in a while, so I've got to refresh my memory. I do, obviously I do a lot with the Synology stuff, 'cause that's what I use day to day, but I haven't used QNAP in a while. Yeah, so we can create a shared folder. So we'll just call this, so this is like our file share that we're going to create. So we're going to call this shared QNAP folder. And we're going to put it on the QNAP switch volume, and we'll create it. One thing I'll say about the QNAP stuff is that they throw just so many options at you that it can get confusing. Like there's just so much stuff. And I understand why they do it, but that you don't typically see that on the Synology side. They tend to try to simplify it a little bit more. But I think if you're an advanced user and you want a lot of control, you certainly have it here. So you saw that we created that shared QNAP folder. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back over to my Finder here. And I'm just going to use the username that we set up to connect to it. And as you can see now, we're now able to visibly see what's available to us on the Mac. So here's that shared folder we created. So I can start dropping files in there. So for example, I could grab, do I have any files on here? I have an APK of something. Let me grab a picture or something just to show you. By the way, I was just pulling up this shot from I was trying to pull some NASA images. We're going to do a stream tomorrow afternoon for the launch of the SpaceX rocket. That's going to be fun, right? Hopefully it goes this time. And we're going to do a live stream. And I'm going to show you some pictures of some of the prior trips that I've made down there, because we've done a lot of cool stuff down at the Kennedy Space Center. And I didn't go this time because of all the stuff going on, but I am definitely going to go back again at some point and cover more of this stuff. The last trip we did was for the Falcon Heavy launch, and that was so amazing. Every one of these things is amazing to do. All right, so let's go back here. And I'm just going to jump into that folder that we created. I'm going to take this file that's on my Mac. We're going to copy it with the Finder, just like we would local file, right? So now it's on there. And if we go back to the switch, and I just do or actually the NAS that has a switch on it, and I hit refresh here, you'll see that that shuttle picture is there. And can we view it? Let's see. Open. And there you go. So it is on there. And what's this? Network media player. Oh, that's cool. It looks like it works with Chromecast too. Okay, so now what I want to do is I'm just going to copy over a Windows ISO file that I have for Windows 10. And we're going to install Windows on this thing. Now you can't, as far as I know, you can't just boot it up to Windows, but it runs as a virtual machine. And I think there's a way to access it with the HDMI, but it's not the same as a native Windows 10 installation that's using the Intel video and all that. So bear with me here for a second, folks. I'm just going to grab that file. And I'll take a look at the chat here while we're doing all that. And let me go over to software. I think I have a pretty recent Windows 10 build on here. Yeah, I got that in February. I've downloaded that one. So we'll pop that in there. It'll take a second to copy. And we take a look at the some of the comments here. Nick MG wants to know if I mentioned the price of this. Yes, it is $6.99. If you go to the link in the description, and actually everyone who's watching wants to help out. Every time we get a price question, just send folks over to that link. That'll take you to Amazon where you can actually watch what we're doing there as well. And I've got links to everything there. Grayson says, oh, you're doing a live stream? Yeah, this is all live right now. So we're just getting this thing set up for a review that I'll be doing next week. Aaron Johnson says, both vMix and Wirecast are fascinating. They are really useful, I think. There's a lot that you can do with this stuff. And I can actually show you the screen that I'm looking at right now, as a matter of fact, on that device. Let me go over to local desktop capture. And you can see my control panel. So this is what I'm looking at. And all my video sources are down here, so I can queue up different cameras. And then if I hit my space bar, whoop, here I come. And then we have the merge effects here. Oops, uh-oh. Invalid call. Please don't. Okay, I think we're better. We're back up now. All right. We're back. So we had a little glitch and I don't know if I want to push this button again. So I was going to show you a merge effect, and it crashed vMix. I was just talking about how stable vMix was until it's not. But we're okay now. So the good news is, so this is the best part about what I set up here. So what I'm doing to stream now is I'm running the stream through Amazon's Media Live, and if I have a local crash, it holds the connection open. So you get that slate that says, we'll be right back. And more often than not, it's a Comcast issue. But what I think happened here, bear with me, folks. I'm going to do this thing again. I just want to see if this is going to crash it again, because if it does, I'm going to send the bug report in. So hang on, folks. Now that I know I will come back. Okay, so it didn't do it that time. So let me go and bring in. I'm just going to try to repeat this again. I'm just curious if it'll. Here's what's funny is that on this video production stuff, if there's a bug, I will find it. So here I'm going to do exactly what I did before. Let's see what happens. I will do this, and then I'm going to merge back. All right, that time it didn't crash. I don't know. That was weird. That was very weird. Let's try this. Let me try merging from one of these to the other. Because like I said, this has been like rock stable for everything that I do except just now. All right, that didn't crash that time. So I don't know. There's a lot of, I would say this, the most problems I've had with vMix relate to NDI. And I think that's, it's based on the fact that the NDI part is a separate piece of their software. So it's not as tightly integrated as the rest of their code is. So yeah, I have to see if I can find the log here, because I don't usually have it crash on me like that. So I should probably send that in to them. Is there a log somewhere? Let's see if we can find where the log is located, and then we'll continue on. That was weird. Okay. Where were we? So we're going to go back to the switch, because that file did copy over in the interim. And let's go and to the virtualization thing. So let's click on the virtualization guide. All right, this NAS provides numerous features dedicated to virtualization and performance enhancement. So this section, support for blah, blah, blah. Okay, how do we get, I thought they had their own like virtualization app on here. Let me go back into the App Center here and see if we can install that. So I'm going to install the container station, because you can run Docker on this thing. And I think there is, yeah, here it is, virtualization station. So we'll get that going. And these are all downloading from QNAP, and they'll be updated automatically. So this is just like, how your iPhone works or whatever. And the interface that they have is what you see here. So this is running inside my Chrome web browser, but it's its own little OS here. It's pretty cool. Okay, so we'll just wait for those apps to finish installing. And they should show up here on our desktop when they're done. And you can see it's processing right now. And we'll get back in there in a second. Okay. So Jeff Jones is wondering about the encoding here. So what's happening is my computer is, the vMix computer is sending the stream out. And then instead of going direct to YouTube and Amazon, because I stream to both places, so I have a 2.5 megabit per second 720p stream going up. And then rather than have it go directly to YouTube and Amazon's shopping pages, which is where this is located right now, I have it going to Amazon's AWS has one of their many services. They have S3 for storage. They got EC2 for the cloud computers. They have something called Media Live. And this works a lot like Restream.io and some of those other services work. But Amazon runs it, and like their other services, you pay by the hour for it. So I'm paying, I think I pay like $1.12 an hour or something for what I'm, doing right now. So I send out now a single 2.5 megabit stream to Amazon, and then they send this stream in turn out to YouTube and Amazon Shopping separately. And because they sit in the middle, because Media Live is in the middle there, if my stream drops off, Amazon keeps it alive. And you can configure it in a way that you can have it grab an image, a still image, if I ever go dark. So when vMix crashes or when Comcast has one of their many issues that I deal with all the time, if my stream drops off on the inbound, what'll happen is that it will run that slate, that will be right back slate. And what's been great about this is that what just happened with that crashing right there, this would have dumped you all out of the YouTube stream and likely out of the Amazon stream, because what happens is that YouTube and Amazon stop seeing the inbound connection. But because it maintains it, what it does is it just starts streaming that still image back over. And that's been awesome. And I'm going to use this up until I get my connection upgraded. After we get the new connection, we'll be at 2 gigabits upstream, and I'll have hopefully a more reliable connection. It'll be direct fiber. So we shouldn't have the problems we're having with this, unless vMix crashes, of course, which is unusual. Although it seems to crash a lot when I play around with stuff. Blake Livingston wants to know, is there any way to make Plex behave like live TV with my own library so I can mindlessly flip through content that is being played randomly? That's a good question. I don't think you can do that. You could do is you could set up like a big playlist, like dump everything you have into the playlist and then just shuffle that playlist, and that might be one way to do that. So you could try that. Although I don't know if it'll shuffle by show. It might shuffle the episodes. So that might get a little weird. And Zach, yes, we're definitely going to test Plex through this. We may not get to it in the stream today. We'll see how far I get, but that's definitely going to be in the review. David tells us, I was just reading about Media Live this week to research a project involving video feeds. Yeah, I might do a tutorial on the setup of Media Live. It was not easy. I spent, like, the weekends are like my project time when I start messing around with stuff. And it took me like 2 Sundays to figure it out, because I initially got it set up and it didn't really work quite right. And then I just went back to it after I took a break, and I was like, oh, that's it. It's super complicated, like everything is on AWS. So it's not super easy, but once you get, and I'm sure I have it misconfigured some way somehow, but it seems to be doing okay. All right, so let's open up the virtualization station here. And let's see, what's this? Virtual switch. What do I have to do to fix this? QNAP's virtualization station is a, when you click finish, the system will create a virtual switch and the network connection will be interrupted for a few seconds. Okay. So we'll let this do whatever it's going to do. And then we'll get Windows installed on it. And maybe what we'll do after that is get Plex going, and then I've got to close it out, because that'll probably get us to about 4:30 or so. All right, so that is done. And this is partly why I don't get to that many NAS systems regularly, is that it takes so long to set these things up. So, no. Okay, so now we are going to create a VM. Try a free Windows VM. I don't know what that means. We'll just create one from what we have here. Call this Windows 10. And OS type is Windows 10. We can allocate some RAM. So I'm going to probably allocate about 4 gigs here. CD image is the ISO that I copied over. So we'll click that. And we'll create an image. And we'll give it a gigabyte. Let's give it not 2 terabytes. Let's give it like 2. Oh, those gigabytes. Let's give it like, I want to leave some room on here. Actually, we don't have that much room to begin with. What am I talking about? Let's do 56 gigabytes, just to make sense. All right. And I'll click OK here. So it'll give us the option to connect to it via VNC. I'm just going to leave the password off just for simplicity. And we'll put the shared image in here. Okay. All right, I'll create a password if you really want me to. All right. So let's do Windows 10 Pro. That way we can have, we can get the RDP to work on that also. And we'll do our password and hit start. And what it's going to do, presumably, is install Windows 10 for us here quietly in the background. I think. We shall see. I'm guessing that's what it's doing right now. Oh, okay, so let's power it on. So we'll hit start. There we go. And so yeah, this is running on through our web browser. I'm guessing it's like the VNC protocol for this, and it's running on here right now. And what you see here is likely the Windows installation booting up. Although we should start seeing the little swirly thing down here, which I don't see yet. But we'll let it do its thing. And it is started up, so that's good. Yeah, it looks like the, and to get an idea as to what the CPU utilization is. We only set up a single core, so that might be part of it. So we might want to up the cores on this, which I can't do while it's running, but we'll give it a second and see if maybe it'll speed itself up. And this will be similar to like VMware or Parallels on the Mac. It's very similar to how those work. But I think it's cool that you can have, you know, a version of Windows just running, you know, running on this thing. There it goes. And again, we're using right now, I forgot to set up the cores. We're using a single core of a Gemini Lake Intel chip, which is not going to be very quick. And Windows installation will take, you know, about what a Windows installation takes on here. So that's what's going on there. All right, so let's let this have it do what it's doing. And now my Mac just froze up. Let's see. Okay, I think we're back. Okay, good. So now I'll pull this up here so you can see what's going on. And if you ever installed Windows before, this will look very familiar to you. What if we should put like Windows 98 on here or something? That might be kind of fun. We could do that. We could do that. And these are VMs, so you know they run in their own space. So they generally can't hop out of the virtual space to infect other things. But that's why what's cool about these things is that in many ways they're kind of like running your own like little Amazon AWS server. You've got, you know, virtualization. You could have, you know, Linux running. Obviously, it runs Linux natively, but you can, you know, install, you know, on the VM you can install an installation of Linux, Ubuntu if you want. You could have Windows 10 running on one of them. You got to think about the RAM, obviously, but you could have that going, and then the containers work on it also. So you could have, and that's a lot more memory efficient. So you could run a container with something that you might want to run on the Linux side. Yeah, you've got a lot of flexibility here, and it's just going to take a little while for it to do that. So while that's going, what I think I'll do is we'll head over to Plex, and we'll grab the more recent version of the server for this, because we can actually install that while it's doing the Windows installation. So we have, you know, we keep cranking away here. So the next thing we need to do is we'll go over to the Plex website, and I just have to find the server here. So we're going to get Plex, and we'll go to the download page, and we'll go over to Plex Media Server. And I'm going to select NAS, and we have a QNAP NAS. And I'm going to choose this package. Now this one is, as you can see, this one is much more up to date than the one that's currently on the QNAP store. And this is not unusual. In fact, you will see most of the NAS devices out there, their stores are always behind on this stuff. And we'll select the Intel version. And that's going to download to my Mac here. So it's downloading right now, 127 megabytes. And then when that's in, what we'll do is we'll go back to our control panel here. I'm just going to minimize the virtualization thing. And this is what's cool about these things. I mean, these are PCs, they're computers, so you can do more than one thing at a time. So we're going to go to App Center, and we're going to go ahead and load this up real quick. So we're going to go to Install Manually, and we'll go to Browse, and we'll grab the Plex Media Server and click Open. And we'll click Install. And now it's going to install. Simple as that. Hit the easy button. And the one thing I don't have, well, I guess we could copy over some movies and stuff, but I think what maybe we'll do is we'll try to connect to my TV tuner, and we'll play around with some transcoding on that and see how it does. Okay, so that's installed. All right, the app is installed and ready to use. So that's it. It's in there. So let's take a look on the progress of our Windows installation. So this is almost done. And we'll wait for that to happen there. So, so some not so nice comments about Windows 98 and Windows ME. Who was it LGR that did something on Windows ME the other day? That was a pretty good retrospective he did on Windows ME. Yeah, Windows 95 I thought was that was the real game changer. And then I had 98. It was fine. And then I went from 98 to 2000. And actually for a while I was dual booting 2000 and 98 because there were some things that ran in 98 and not in 2000 and vice versa. So that was that. Recipe Bob is here. Nick MG says 98 was okay, as it was for me, but ME was a disease that no one wanted. Yeah, it was almost like they pushed it out just to have something. I think that they wanted to do the big merger with the NT code earlier than they were able to. And that's why we had that kind of sitting in the middle there. All right, so now our Windows machine is going to reboot. And this is via a VNC connection running in a browser. And now it should bring us into Windows 10 now. And you can install all sorts of Windows software on here if you want. And while that's going, what I'm going to do is just head over to Plex, and we're going to claim the server, which is now running on here. And we'll get that set up. I'm just going to log into my Plex account real quick. I've got like Plex servers all over my network here, so I just got to find the right one. Bear with me. And it hasn't shown up on the list yet here, so I maybe have to do some additional. Here, oh, no, that's a Studio Shield. Let's see. I may have to go and get it from the. Here we go. Let's go back to here, and I'll pull this up in a second here. So this is the Plex server component, and it's probably going to ask me to log in, so let me log in real quick. And so we got Plex getting going there, we got Windows booting, all sorts of stuff going on. All right, so we're going to name this QNAP switch. I'm just going to turn off the exterior access. Christoval on Amazon says Apple 2GS, heck yeah. Yeah, it still works too. We're going to actually soon, maybe we'll do a stream with the 2GS soon, because we did a video a long time ago about that machine, and it of course had a problem. It blew out its filter cap on the power supply, and that was it for that one. Let's see, I want to go back. I gotta find my my share volumes here. Yeah, we'll just throw it in here. Why not? Just mess up that thing there. Okay. So I'm just setting up a TV show directory because I'm just going to get my DVR, the live TV thing going on it, and then we'll go from there. So let's go over to QNAP switch, and we'll go to settings. And what I'm going to do here is go over to live TV and DVR. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to have it grab my HD Home Run Prime. And this brings in my cable TV channels. And it's already got them all here. And I'm just going to say cable and my country. And we'll click continue. And I think I just have to give it my postal code so it can match up the channel guide data. So right now it's going through and matching the channels up. And there we go. Continue. And we're done. So it's just going to take this a second because what it's got to do is download the program guide. But what I wanted to do here was let's kind of play some stuff and just see if the hardware transcoding works on it. That's kind of my objective here, is that. And we're going to find out, Dimitri, as far as what it can do on transcoding. This is your typical Gemini Lake Plex server. So what I can do real quick, because I have a list of, let me find it real quick. I have a list of things. Cristobal, oh, by the way, Cristobal's a 2GS fan, by the way. He's on the Amazon chat. And he's got a 2GS with a Transwarp GS. And I've got one in there also. And the one that I bought, I got a great deal on it on eBay. And somebody hacked it to go to 12 megahertz. So that thing's cooking. I got like 4 megs of RAM, the Transwarp GS. I have one of those compact flash storage adapters in there. So that thing's juiced up. It's great. And you can download like a big hard drive image from someplace and just boot it up. So I've got a new power supply for it. So I think we'll do a stream one day. We'll get that thing resurrected. It'd be kind of fun. Now, what was I doing before I got into my Apple 2GS discussion? Let's see what we're doing on the media server. I'm just closing out some tabs here. All right, we're good there. I'm going to close this out. Let's check on Windows is still chewing away here. This was my mistake because I only put in the single core, and I don't think I can give it any more cores while it's loaded. So we'll let that continue processing there. And then Plex is still building the channel guide, I think. Yeah. Let's see if we can go to guide here and get anything. You're about 14% on the guide data, so let's let that finish up. All right. So yeah, we're back in a holding pattern here until this stuff is all done. But I'll tell you, it is noisy. And it's not like super noisy, but it's like I call this utility closet noisy. Yeah, so next week we'll do a live stream on that 2GS. I've been meaning to get that going because I've got a closet full or a shelf full of Apple II stuff that I got from a guy about a year ago. And I have been meaning to go through it all. That might be kind of a fun weekend thing to do. All right, so let's go back to our Windows installation. That's booting up. We'll double check on Plex here and see how it's doing. And we're still processing, I think. Yep. Where are we at on the guide? 21%. So let's see if we can get some HD channels. We'll get that going. The good thing is we can tune it all from the laptop here. And next, we are booting Windows up. And I think we're almost there on the Windows stuff. And yeah, it takes a while to do this setup here. All right. So we will take a look at how it does with those things in a second. Jeff Jones says, your location's EPG show for the CW network this Sunday. I don't know. We'll take a look when it comes back up on the CW. I will see. Just gotta that first guide install on on Plex takes forever. So we've got to let that kind of work itself out. And if you're just joining us, what we're working on here is getting this. So this looks like a network switch, but it's in fact more than that. It's a NAS and a switch. And actually what I might do real quick, because we have a few minutes while everything is getting loaded in, is let's test the power over Ethernet on this, shall we? So I've got a camera here. This is a PTZ optics camera that they sent to us a while back. And why don't we plug it in and see if it works? So I've got a patch cable here that I'm going to plug into one of the ports here. So let's just plug it into port 14. Now it says that all of these ports are power over Ethernet. So I want you to keep an eye on what I'm doing here, because this is a single cable, one cable, that we're going to plug into this camera, because this camera supports power over Ethernet. So if I switch it on here, let's see if it's able to power it. And it's moving. Yep. There we go. It's up. All right, so what I can do, if I'm feeling bold enough to do this again, let's go to my desktop capture, and I'll just show you what I'm going to do here. So now this camera is on, and what we're going to do is add a new NDI source to the mix. So let's go to Add Input, and we're going to go over to NDI. And if it's on the network, we will see the PTZ optics camera here. And there it goes. So that's the image from the camera right now. And I think I've got some PTZ controls on here. I don't know how to do those on this yet. I've got to learn how to do that. But see, it's working. So this is coming in. That's my daughter's mug that she made me. Well, she did the picture, and then the mug was like one of those things you get. But there you go. So single cable. We're getting data and power through the switch. Pretty cool, right? So that's neat. Yeah, cool. And this is an NDI camera, by the way. So all you need, if you have a PoE switch like this, one cable, and you get video out, power in. And if I had the software configured, I could do all the pan, tilt, and zoom operations with it also. So yeah, that's cool. So that works. So this is a neat product. If you like having everything in one box, it's there, right? So neat. All right, so let's go back to the Windows thing. It's still booting. And it's not usually this slow. It's just that I only assigned it a single core to get going with. And that reminds me, so there were some questions as to what the transcoding capacity of this is. So let me try to find that list. Intel QuickSync transcoding. And there's a great, Wikipedia has a great chart of what you can do with one of these. Yeah, here it is. So let me show you what we've got here. And again, I think this one's Gemini Lake. So if we go over to the list here, you'll see what it's capable of transcoding. So Gemini Lake is in the KB Lake family. And I got to just double check the processor on this to make sure this is actually a Gemini Lake chip. But you can do all the basics, MPEG-2, AVC, which is our H.264, VC1, JPEG, VP8, HEVC, HEVC 10-bit. It will encode and decode. It won't do 12-bit HEVC. It will do VP9, and it will decode VP9 10-bit only. If it's Apollo Lake, it's a little more limited. And I did a video, actually, not too long ago about this subject as to like what you can expect out of your particular device. And typically, if you've got one of these processors, depending on what you're watching in the transcode load, you could probably get 3 or 4 people watching something and transcoding at the same time. If you're not transcoding and just doing direct play, you can get a lot more. It's really a matter of network bandwidth at that point because it's just file sharing, so it's not too demanding. And it looks like our program guide is almost done updating, so we should see something in here in a second. And somebody was wondering if my CW channel had stuff for, what day was it? It was for Sunday night during prime time on the CW. Let me take a look at that real quick. And so we're going to go to the CW, which is right here, and we want to look for Sunday night. So let's go to Sunday, and we'll go prime time on Sunday. And CW, yeah, I've got stuff here, so it's definitely seeing things. All right, so now what I'm going to do, let's take a look and see if it can do some transcoding. So I'm going to find one of my local affiliate stations, and one of them does like 1080i MPEG-2, which is what most of these broadcast at. So, and I've got to be careful about this because of copyright stuff. Let me go to today, or now. And CBS, okay, the news is on, so we should be okay with that. So let me go ahead and tune to the news feed here. So now this is going to play through the NAS. So if I go to, how do I watch this live? I think I can just click on it, right? Nope. Hang on a second. Let me go back to where I was a second ago. Oh, I have to hit play. Okay, so let's go over here to, I don't usually look at it through the web browser, so that's part of the problem. So this is my CBS affiliate. I'm going to click play. And this is going to transcode because I don't know if this will be a direct play scenario here. And we can find out actually. Yeah, it's converting it. So let me turn the sound off. And if we go over to the top of the screen here, and it looks like it's getting a little slowed down here. Let's give it a second. I think it's tuning up that transcoder real quick. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to convert it to like 1080p. Let's do it down to 720p for the heck of it, because I could be dealing with some Wi-Fi problems here too. So let's try that real quick. All right, so now, just to give you the direction of data here. So this is coming in from my cable system through my HD Home Run Prime. And the HD Home Run passes the video through as it's coming in. So if the web browser here can't play back MPEG-2, and actually we're forcing it not to, it'll convert the video in the NAS here over to another format. And it's looking like it's not doing it too decently here. And I think, I have a theory, and my theory is that I may not have enabled hardware transcoding. So let's go to the dashboard. Oh, it is, okay, it is transcoding it. It's just not doing it very well. Although it says it's buffering on the browser, so I wonder if, you know what we'll do, there it goes. Ooh, it's not going too good at all, is it? I wonder if it's my laptop and not the, not Plex. So let's try something else here real quick. I'm going to cancel this. Let's just troubleshoot this. Because I think this might be another reason. So we're going to stop that. I'm going to go over to my phone, and I'll load Plex up on my phone and just see if maybe the phone is the culprit. So, hey, did I drop out there? I must have disappeared. Okay, so let's go into the server here. Give me 1 second. I'm just looking it up on my phone real quick. So we're going to go to QNAP switch, live TV, and DVR. I'm going to, again, tune to that CBS affiliate. And the reason why I like to do that one is that it's 1080i. It's, you know, it's going to give the transcoder some work. Okay. Now that started up really quickly. Actually, really quick. So it's playing back now. Let me show you what I'm getting here. Although it just froze up. So it started and then it froze again. Yeah, it's not doing too good here either. So let's go back to playback settings. And right now it's converting. Yeah, so it is transcoding. So it's not doing too good yet here, but I don't think it's the fault of the installation here. Let me go back to the Plex thing and just see what we're looking at. Because if I look at the CPU utilization, let's pull it up on screen real quick. This will be something I'll have to play with more, I think, and maybe do it with some movies. Because you can see here we're not killing the CPU at all. So, and we know we're hardware transcoding. Although the RAM, oh, you know what it is? I think it might be the memory, because we have that VM running. So, although it's weird, like we're that high on RAM. Interesting. Although I think it might be doing okay now. Let's see. So right now they got weather maps on screen, so let's see what happens when they switch over to something else here. So the audio is fine. All right, let's see here. Yeah, something's not right here. So we're getting like every other frame. So I think it's probably utilization here. So it's like every other frame we're getting, right? It's not doing too good. Let's try to turn this down a little bit and let's see if we get. But it's weird because like normally if we were having a transcoding problem, our CPU would be through the roof, but it isn't. So I'm gonna have to, like I said, I'll have to play with this a little bit more. All right, so just turn down to 720p to see if that would do any better here. Yeah, it's still not doing too good. All right, so we're gonna have to explore that one a little bit more. Although I have a theory that if I shut down that Windows thing, let's see if that, what happens there. So let's go back to that real quick. Windows is like frozen. So I think, let me disconnect and reconnect and see what's going on there. I think we may have just had this Apollo Lake, Gemini Lake chip hit its limits there. So let's go back to the virtualization station. Oh, that's weird because this was actually in a different state than, huh, all right. Let me finish setting this up while we're doing this. Yeah, so I think we got to do a little bit of work on the Plex stuff. And I'm going to try, I said to copy over some movies. I like to do the Blu-ray MKV files, but those are huge. And they take a while to copy. So I was hoping that the TV is often a good way to experiment with it. Let's try something else. Let's go and find a, it's funny, I'm doing this live stream around the same time I shot that Plex video, so all the same shows are on right now. It's kind of funny. So here's like this is my local cable, like regional cable news channel, NECN. I think they're out of Boston. And this is coming over my cable system. And this is actually MPEG-4, so it shouldn't be playing this lousy. Actually, no, I'm sorry. It is MPEG-2. All right, so let's go find something that's not MPEG. Let's see if we can do, or MPEG-2. Let's do, I think the regular cable news networks are. Give me a second here. I'm just find like the local, or not the local, the CNN thing or something. Here we go. So we'll pull up a little Wolf Blitzer here. Let's see. Well, that one's not. Let me get the guide up here. So let me scroll down to the bottom, and we'll pull up. Okay. Oops. All right, so I'm going to switch channels here. And so this cable network comes in at, you know, it shouldn't have to transcode this because this comes in as MPEG-4 already. And even that's not coming over too well. So we're going to have to experiment more with this. So just by comparison, it's like totally frozen. If I switch over to my other server, so let's go to Live TV and DVR. Now this is going to be on my existing server, on the one we've got in the other room there. So this is not this one. And let's scroll down to those same channels. So let's pull up that CBS affiliate real quick. We'll do that one first. And again, this is not off of this. This is off my MyCloud, which I know works pretty good. So, and this will still be transcoding, but that's how it's supposed to be. And this is off of an older Apollo Lake processor also. So, and see, that's exactly how it's supposed to be, nice and smooth. And if I go over to my control panel and we look at the dashboard, here, I'll pull this up for you. So this is the MyCloud here running, and you can see we're hardware transcoding MPEG-2. Let me zoom in here. Let me zoom in on it for you. So we're hardware transcoding 1080i to 1080p, and it's all working. This is the bandwidth chart. You can see the CPU is very unutilized. So I got to play with this a little bit more. And somebody did, rightfully point out that maybe there's a setting somewhere like the hardware transcoding setting, but as you saw, it was actually hardware transcoding. It just wasn't working. So, or it wasn't able to do it quick enough. Something's timing-wise is off on that. So we got to explore that a little bit. So we'll come back to that as a topic. But Windows is almost installed. So I think we'll probably wrap it when we get Windows up and running on there. And it looks like, it's funny too, it looks like I keep losing the VNC connection to the virtual machine here. So let's go back and reconnect again. All right, we're almost done here. Celeron J4115 in that switch isn't listed in the Plex NAS compatibility spreadsheet. Let's take a look and see what that processor is. Because I might be totally wrong about that processor. So let's take a look and see what it is. So I'm going to go find it on the Intel. All right, hang on a minute here. So the J4105. Is that the right one? Let's take a look. Let's go back to QuickSync. Let me check the Amazon listing for this again. Because it could, you're right, it could just be a little quirk in its configuration here. So it's a J4115. And I'm not even finding it on the Intel. Usually if I Google it, I get like right to the page on the Intel site, Intel's ARC site. So let me go to it directly here and we'll just do a quick search. And see if it comes up. No matching products. That's weird, huh? So the 4105 is in there, but not the 4115. And it's Gemini Lake, so it is based on the Gemini Lake platform. So it should be doing better. At least that one is. And I'm imagining if 4105 to 4115 has got to be the same thing. And QuickSync is supported, which is what you want for Plex. So I'll dig into this a little bit more. It may not be a good Plex server. We'll find out. I mean, it'd be a killer product if it was, right? You get PoE, you get a managed switch, the whole nine. You can run Windows on it. So that would be really cool. All right, so here we are with Windows. And I just got to type in my password here. Now this is running via VNC. So it's not as colorful, perhaps, as an RDP connection would be. And we're going to jump into Windows. And this is running, Windows is running on here as a VM. And I'll take some more questions while that's going. I got to do something with the questions. I want to figure out a way to get them. So vMix has something called vMix Social, and I can actually pull your questions out of YouTube and put them right up on screen, which I'm going to start playing around with that soon too. All right, so. So John Moshe says, does the Fire Stick 4K support the MPEG-2 codec? It does. However, in the video we did last night, Plex was not working with it. And I recall there was a bug of some kind that was making the live TV stuff not work very well with it. So it's kind of a hit or miss thing. And we're almost done here. We're just going to let whatever is going to take several minutes, take several minutes. But that should be up soon. Then we'll wrap it up there. And then we'll do more with this. You can see how long it takes to get these NAS devices reviewed. There's a lot to them. And they have so many features that you have to figure out, like, what is it that we're going to talk about in this review that we haven't talked about before? And that's the sort of stuff that I struggle with on these sometimes. Don't you love it when they say, leave everything to us, or we've upgraded your PC? But you know what I'll do in the interim here? Let's plug the monitor into it and see what we get on that. So we're going to put the monitor up here. And I think I have to connect a keyboard as well, so we're going to do that real quick. So I got that plugged in. I'll show you what I'm looking at here. Let's go to camera 2 again. And let me zoom out here. So there is an HDMI port on the front of it. And they often give you a remote control with the QNAPs because most of them have that HDMI connection, but this one doesn't seem to have that. So we're going to have to connect a keyboard and trackpad so that we can use it that way. So we're going to plug this in. And we're going to plug in the HDMI here to the front. All right, now Windows is up and running, by the way. And I don't expect I'm going to see anything. Oh, I am seeing something on screen. Look at that. All right, so we got that going. And now I've got to get my keyboard and trackpad connected. So we'll bring in my Logitech trackpad here. These are on sale on Amazon, by the way. I should add this to the product carousel real quick if you're watching live, because these things are super useful. This one's the K830 from Logitech. And I bought this years ago, and I still use this all the time because it's got a backlit keyboard. And if you're watching on Amazon right now, they're on sale for like 60 bucks. And what's nice about this is that it supports Bluetooth. It's backlit and it supports Bluetooth. So you can use the dongle that it comes with or not. You can just connect it up with Bluetooth if you want. All right, so we'll plug that in there. I think that's the right one to plug it into. Let's see. Yep, there we go with that. And I'll just type my password in. And now, and it's still doing all the NAS stuff in addition to all the other things that it's doing. So it's like a everything thing. So I can load up Firefox, for example. And I don't think we get audio through this, but we can go to my YouTube channel. See that? We can go to my page on Amazon here. Oops, maybe that's not where are we going here. Let's go Lon.TV/Amazon Live. So we can go right to my Amazon Live page here, and we can watch. Let's see if it can play video. Let's see what happens here. Yeah, it plays video. Look at that. Maybe it does do audio. I'll have to plug in some speakers later. So I don't see an audio output on it, but it probably goes through the HDMI. That's pretty cool. This is now. I think of that scene from Spaceballs when he says, this is now. So there you go, you got that. And then I guess I can add additional apps to that screen. So let me close the tabs here. And what do we got here? This is audio output, okay. And then we've got the language. Oh, then I can add more apps through here. So you see what I mean? When you try to review something like this, you could spend hours just trying to figure out, like, what do you see? So we can put LibreOffice on here. Let's do that. Throw that on there. Install that. So you could kind of use it as a PC, right? Running at 1080p. I think you can get this going at like 4K. Some of the other QNAPs I've looked at did like 4K 30 out the HDMI. So think about that. You can like run this on your switch. So let's sum up what we've been doing here. So we've got a NAS and a switch in one. It's a managed power over Ethernet PoE switch. So it does that. You can plug in your keyboard and trackpad combo here and get that to work with it. And we can load up LibreOffice here. I like to show, someone was asking, like, why do you show this LibreOffice thing? Well, you know what I like to show it is because it's something that I think a lot of consumers can relate to, because they all want to, access a spreadsheet and word processor. And after all, I think what sold the public on computers to begin with was word processors and spreadsheets. Spreadsheets in particular are really the reason why personal computers became a thing. So I think that's one of the reasons why I like that stuff. Let's see what other apps we have available to us here. So I think that's it for apps. Like, it's only this list. Do we have, what's QTS? So you can put your surveillance station. You can actually have the security cameras display on here. Spotify, Skype. So I guess you can plug a camera in. And you can install, so here you can get the admin page to run on the thing. But I don't think you can, get the Windows virtualization stuff to work through this. Let's take a look and see on the control panel real quick if there's an option for that. Let me just wrap the installation of the Windows machine up here. We'll say yes. I don't know what I just clicked. But here we go. We've got Windows running in low color on the NAS. So it's running in the background essentially while we've got all this other stuff going. And we'll see if we can hit my YouTube channel through this. There you go. So Windows is functional. We can install Microsoft Word on here if we wanted to and run that virtually. You can have, if you have some kind of proprietary piece of Windows software that you want to run. Again, it's running glacially slow because I only assigned a single core to it. So I think that's part of the reason why it's so slow here. We'll come back to that later when I do the review. But I wanted to see if there's a way that we can get it to display on our TV here, our monitor. Oh, assigned to QVM. Is that what I'm looking at here? Let's take a look. Yeah, it's a very limited offering here, although I wonder if I can find more on the App Center here. Yeah, I'm going to have to play with this a little bit more. But yeah, you get the idea, right? So pretty cool. All right, let me take a few more questions, and I'm going to call it a day, I think. Nice hard day's work for me. Sabara says that it's an odd Intel chip. It's clocked at 300 megahertz higher than the 4105. It benchmarks slightly higher on single core, but about 50 points slower in multi-core on Geekbench. says it should do okay with Plex though. Yeah, I think there's something going on related to, so I got to get some movies on this and try to see if we can get that figured out. And yes, Cosmo, VisiCalc was I think VisiCalc was why the personal computer became a thing. You can download it and run it on whatever you want to run it on. It's still out there. Ed Horde says LibreOffice can bog down a lightweight system. For sure. WordStar and WordPerfect. We used to have WordPerfect at my dad's office. And they had those keyboard cheat sheets that were like taped to the top of the keyboard with all the different commands you had to do. So that was kind of fun. Vinod asks, have you tried updating Plex on the MyCloud, the 4 terabyte version? I have an older version running on it, but never managed to upgrade to the latest. Yeah, I upgrade it actually quite frequently. You have to, if you go and download it directly from the Plex website and then install it manually, it'll overwrite the old version and get going there. So yeah, this is working. Okay, so I got some things I gotta play with to finish this up, but it looks, I mean, it's pretty cool. I mean, if you're looking for, and you all can tell me, right? But if you're looking for something that is an all-in-one single rack space device, you've got your switch, you've got your NAS, you've got TV out as well, so you can put some stuff up on your TV if you want, right? It's pretty neat. I think it's neat. I hear, you know, the concerns that people might have of losing, you know, if you lose one device here, you'll lose them all. But it's kind of cool. All right, you know what, before we close out, remember there was one thing that we didn't look at, which was the adapter, the network management IP address. So let's pop in there real quick. And that's a different link versus the host. So let's look and see what kind of options we have for the network switch. So let me pop that up here. And yeah, so weird, right? So this is like a separate login versus the other one. So, and I don't even know what the password's supposed to be because it's not the one that I set up for the, because system management, okay, so it's telling me to, so this has a separate password because it is a separate device working within the switch here. But you can see what we've got here. Well, let's plug that camera back in and see what it reports. Where did I put the camera? Did I put it back over there? Oh, I did it. Let me go get it real quick. So I might be able to manage the power output of that camera. That might be kind of fun. How long have we been going now? I think this is like 2.5 hours, isn't it? Let's see. We have been going for 2 hours. So this is what it takes, right? I mean, you gotta poke around at all this stuff to figure out what these things do. All right, so I'm gonna plug in the camera again, and let's switch it on. And again, it's being everything's being powered by the single device here, single cable. All right, so the camera's plugged in. And if we go back to the screen here, so we have we have an Ethernet device attached, link up, and then we have link up and power. See that? So can we monitor how much it's consuming? Oh yeah. So power consumption, that's pretty nice. So we have 400 watts available, and we're using 6.8 right now for the camera. Let me refresh this just to make sure that it's like updating in real time here. Yeah, cool. Isn't that, oh, this is neat. So it even tells you what ports are consuming what power. That's cool. So I should probably try to connect a few more devices. I do have another PoE device I can connect real quick. I've got my Bird Dog NDI over here. So let me find another patch cable real quick. All right, so here's another PoE device. Let's pop it into port 2 here. And that came up right away. And then if we'll go back to, let's see if it updates in real time, right? So here's the control panel. That's plugged into port 2, so we should see port 2 here light up with some power. Now it did, all right, so it's showing 12 watts here now in use, but it's not giving us the amount here on the chart. But I bet if we refresh, well, yeah, there we go. So we've got 5.3. That's cool. I kind of like that. And then we can configure ports and VLANs, and this is a layer 2 switch. So we could go into port 2 here. And you can see we're doing 1 gig full duplex on that one. Can we go to port configuration? So I can adjust the speed, maximum frame size. I could do my VLAN, I could do link aggregation, quality of service, IGMP, port mirroring. That could be useful for a lot of stuff. LLDP, link layer discovery protocol, loop protection. So there you go. Cool. So I got to make sure I talk about that in the review too. Very neat. Yeah, so lots to play with here. A lot to talk about. This is one of those things that has a lot of pieces to the puzzle, but we've certainly been stacking things on top of it here over time. So there you go. Let's see how quickly this, this screen will update. So I'm going to flick off the camera now. So keep an eye on port number 14. You ready? I'm going to turn the switch off now. And let's see how fast it takes to, you know, I wonder, okay, so it lost the link. Oh, because the camera went down. There it goes. It's off. Boom. Cool. All right. So let me take whatever questions are left, and then we're going to come back tomorrow. Depending on, again, it's all weather contingent in, oh, wait, I got a question from Jay Mystery on the Amazon chat. Does this have a function lock function so the top row of keys? Yes. Okay, so with the K830 keyboard here, you got to hold down function and one of the keys up here to get the F keys normally. But if you install the Windows software, you can configure it so that the function key is not required to get this key is not required to get those to work. So you can flip it, but you have to install the software on Windows to configure it, and then it will let you not just hit the keys directly to get the function keys. So it does let you do that. And I had the same thing with the cheaper one here too. So that is that. All right. So Zam says, too much. Is it too expensive, or is there too much stuff to cover? There's a lot on this thing. I don't even know where to start with it. It's like, ugh. And it does work. It works really well. The bummer is going to be if it doesn't do Plex well, right? Because it does everything else. It can do your dishes for you too. Greg M wants to know if it has any packet tagging. I didn't see it in there. Where would I find that? Let me know. Would it be under traffic maybe, or rate limits, security, IG? Let me know what packet tagging. I can do IGMP snooping. I don't see any packet tagging. John Flay wants to know my thoughts on labeling tweets as misleading. I'm not even going to go there right now. We'll talk about that later. So Sam says it better learn to also cook. Yeah, this thing is it's pretty involved here for sure. All right, so I'm going to I don't know how to shut it down. I guess I got to shut it down through the web control panel here. So let's see how we shut it down, because I'm going to go and take the dog out for a walk and then start thinking about dinner for the family here. So it's the dashboard. Okay, we can go to, it's like, how do you even turn it off? I bet you that the button in the front can be pushed, because oftentimes on these, that's how you shut these things down. So I'm going to push the button once. So there's a host button here for host power. So when we first got this going, when we first got this going, we didn't realize we had to hit the button to start it. So I'm going to push it. There it goes. Yeah, so that's going to shut it down. And you can see, it's hard to see, but it says shutting down. And then what will happen is that the host side will be off, but the network switch will still be active. So the switch only turns off if you kill power to the whole unit. So Jeff Jones says, I think Plex made whitelist processors. So while the CPU might be able to transcode, maybe Plex doesn't realize it yet. Yeah, I'm not sure. It just seems odd to me. It's just like, because normally what I would see with Plex is that it would not be hardware transcoding. Like it just wouldn't do it. So this one was hardware transcoding, but it wasn't getting the throughput. And it could be a whole host of reasons. I got to figure out, exactly what was going on with it. John Moshe just talked to Silicon Dust, and they said an official Apple TV app is in the works. That's great. Oh, Zam has a good idea. I could install a Linux VM. Yep, we could do a Linux VM, or we could even do a, I'm just going to shut the whole thing down here. We could do a Linux VM, or we could even do a container, right? We could do a Docker container. So, yeah. Yeah, I think there's something afoot with this. I just have to kind of troubleshoot it a bit more. But yeah, so that is my initial investigation into this product, and I got to figure out how we're going to cover it because there's so much on this thing. It's like a kitchen sink. It's everything but the kitchen sink. So to recap, we have a PoE switch, layer 2 managed switch, 16 ports. You got 2 SFP ports that are tied to the last 2 ports here, by the way. It's got inside, it has 2 PCI Express slots, and it has a spot for 2 hard drives because it's also a NAS, and it's powered by an Intel processor, so you can run all your QNAP NAS stuff on it. It does a lot. It does a lot. So Robert wants to know what hard drive does it ship with. It is not shipping with any hard drive, so you got to supply the drives. They're 2.5-inch drives, and those are the smaller laptop size ones. So you need to find the right the right drive to work with it. And the max, I would guess, I would imagine the biggest 2.5-inch SATA SSD you can put in here it'll support. So I think you could get a good amount of storage into it. So yeah, so that's that. Okay, well, I am going to shut down the stream. I'm going to first say goodbye to the Amazon folks. Thank you for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed our tinkering today. And we'll let them go, and I'll talk to you all soon. Yeah, Robert, we did set up a RAID 1 on it, so it does do RAID 1 and RAID 0, given that it's only got 2 drives on there. And if you rewind the YouTube stream, you can see me actually futzing around with it, trying to get it working. So, yeah, I think we're going to have a review of all the. I think I'm going to kind of do a broader approach to this. Yeah, I know what viewers want. They want the media serving stuff, so we'll certainly talk about that. We'll talk about the HDMI. We'll talk about the PoE. We'll talk about the managed switch. I'll show the control panel so people can get a sense of that. And that might be 15 minutes right there. There's a lot to it because we got to take it apart and show all the stuff inside of it also. So yeah, so we'll see where it goes from there. All right, well, thank you all for tuning in. I always enjoy doing this with all of you, and I appreciate everybody's support of the channel. It's been I've been locked up in the house since March, but it's been great to be able to reach out to people, and it's great that you're all able to talk to me and each other. So we're a little community here, which is nice. Yeah, so it's going to be good. Sam says it's going to be a multi-part video. I think what I'll actually do with it is we'll start with the overview, and then I'll ask people for me to look at specific dive-ins on it. I think that's how we're going to do it. That's what we're going to do. Cosmo said it'd be a good thing to learn about smart switches. I need to know more about them myself, to be honest with you. The big thing that I would use a smart switch for is the VLAN tagging. That's something that I would be very interested in doing and something I understand, but I have to dive into a little bit more. I don't do a lot of the enterprise network stuff. So John asked a good question. What do you love more, the tech or the community you created? I think a little bit of both. I think you wouldn't have the community without the tech, but I love the community that it's come up around the channel. And what's nice, what I really enjoy is that when I go live, I don't get a huge number of live viewers. It's odd, like when I build a PC, we get a ton of people coming in, largely because they're looking for explosions and sparks and stuff. But what's nice is that when I go live, there's a group of you that are always here, which is awesome. So it's always, it's all of it's great. It's just, there's a lot of, to the question earlier about social media and all the bad things with it, I think there's, what we tend to do as humans is we amplify the negative in our minds. But I think there's far more good than bad on these platforms. There's a lot of bad, but there's a lot more good. And if you think about, the fact that right now people are able to connect, I would never have been able to do this for a living 20 years ago. Like, would some TV station hire me to do this? I don't think so. So, there's that advantage. But the other advantage, I think, too, is that it's easier to connect people, and without all of these tools, we wouldn't have an economy right now at all. I mean, it's bad right now, but it'd be even worse. Even this morning, my daughter, she's not getting the best education right now because it's all remote, but she's getting something. And, she was able to connect with her teachers this morning, again, using all these tools that have come up out of this social media stuff. So it's, there's good and bad. So yeah, that's going to do it. All right, everybody, I am going to halt the stream here and go and figure out what we're going to do for dinner. And I'll have a video up tomorrow night. And I've got a bunch in the hopper now. I've got 2 in the hopper. Yeah, 2 in the hopper. I've got, I just reviewed yesterday, I shot a review of this TCL phone. It's a $250 phone, a beautiful display on it. So that's going up. The review will be up on Amazon probably tonight or tomorrow morning. And then the YouTube one will probably follow next week. The next video that you'll see on the YouTube channel is going to be the stream we did the other day with the Chromebook and trying to get game streaming to work with it. I did end up salvaging some of that footage, so we'll have something on that as well. So stay tuned. More to come on that. So Chris Laporte says, it'd be interesting to test this product with Linux and firewall packages along with some packet analysis tools. May not take much to override. Yeah, that processor will probably get cream doing that kind of stuff. All right, everybody, I'm going to head out. But again, thank you all for tuning in. I appreciate it greatly. And stay tuned. We'll be back with a review of this sometime next week after I figure out what I'm going to talk about with it. And we'll go from there. Have a nice evening, everybody, and we'll talk to you soon. And thanks again for watching.